Well, what's up and what's going on, my fellow fart knockers and dillweeds? It's Ant Master 5 with you, 8 feet below the ground, somewhere at the base of the Catskill Mountains. And yeah, we came, we saw, we kicked its ass. I figured I had to, I have a ghost trap. I have to, that's that's a lot of background noise. You're gonna put your ghost trap down and it's just gonna do this. So yeah, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the big show. So what is it? It's the Gen X locker. Like I said, we're gonna open up the lock. It's three three to the right, two to the left, and one to the right. Or is it? Yeah, so it's one to the right. And yeah, I used to know people that used to keep a little piece of paper on the back of their master locks. So yeah, um, zero editing. If I mess up words, I don't care. I really don't. I don't. For those of you who don't like it, I'm not going to say that curse word just yet. So yeah, that's the Eddie Izzard. So yeah, what am I doing? Like I said, I'm very laid back, very candid. Working out a lot of the bugs right now. Like right now they're smoking here because I lit incense. I wish you could smell it. It's what is this called? Peace of mind. Peace of mind. Is there anything with Maiden behind me? No. Definitely gonna have to adjust camera angles by the next episode because there's actually a whole slew of vinyl records above me. And oops. So yeah. What's the oh duh. Hello. So welcome finally to the Gen X Locker. Welcome to episode one. I wasn't gonna give you the finger. What are we going to be doing? So basically, I made this channel to I almost said bring awareness. I mean, do we have to really bring awareness to Gen X? This is my Batman glass. Hang on, let me just drink this. I raise awareness. No, I'm a Gen Xer. So for those of you who don't know, let's dive right in. So Gen X is the demographic cohort, if you will, that's born between the years 1965 and 1980. I am kind of almost smack in the middle of that. My parents decided to have me in the spring of 1975. A lot happened in 1975. Oh my God, evacuation of Saigon, Jaws came out. Hey, look it up. I was born. Yeah, a lot happened on my birthday. Actually, never mind, just 1975. I share a birthday with the Harmony lady from the Harry Plopper series that I've only seen one of them. Which is it Gen X or are they more millennial? I oh, and President Lincoln, he was assassinated on my birthday, and the Titanic sunk on my birthday. All right, enough about me. Just a little bit though. The generation. The I almost busted out into a Ramon song. So yeah, so we're the generation that was basically the boomers gave birth to us. Not my parents though. Yeah, no, my parents were just a little bored, so they were a little older. So yeah, my parents were already when they had me. Yeah, so my parents are actually part of the silent generation, like kind of almost towards the tail end, but they're still part of the silent generation. So the silent generation is the generation before the boomers, and the boomers are the generation before us. So the boomers, that's you always hear a lot about it. The boomers. Okay, okay, boomer. I hate that. They were 1946 to 1964. The reason why they were called the Boomers, duh. It was a big baby boom surge, if you will. And let's face it. I mean, if you're born between the years of 1946, usually 1946 and 1964, you're ending two major global conflicts. I mean, World War II, hello, and secondly, the Korean War. So you got a lot of these vets coming back home and hey, Margaret, let's open up that box wine. Well, we probably didn't have. I think that was more of a Gen X thing. So that was why there was this baby boom surge, and hence why there was a movie called Baby Boom, which was about Diane Keaton relocating to Vermont. But she was a baby boomer, and that movie basically is kind of a nice slice of what they were like. The baby boomers were very professional, especially the ones in the 80s. Um, yeah, and you saw a lot of that. Women taking control of the workforce, and that actually gave birth to like I guess you could say, a subculture of the baby boomers, the yuppies. Yes, well remembered. But no, I'm one of those Gen X kids. Yeah. So born in the spring of 1975. So let me give you a little bit about me. Let me give you my calling card on why I have I went to a mountain, I stuck a sword in the ground, and I said, I claim this in the name of biscuits. No, I've self-appointed myself a Gen X historian. I did no, it's a true story. I did. And the reason why I did that was because I can, and nobody can stop me. I just felt that, like, I think, like, right after I got, like, out of my, I'm gonna say, like, as I started to decrescendo out of my 30s, that's when it, like, or actually no, into my 30s more, I would say, like, into when I started to come out of my mid 30s, that's when things started to pop up, like, you work with somebody that's younger than you, and you say a line from a movie. I'm all about the movie quotes, and they don't get it, and you're like, okay. And it's like, oh well, I was born in, and you're like, oh no. And so I think it was more of the interaction with the millennials. So anybody that was, basically, born between 1980 and 1995, and by 1995, it's like I was already, messing. I don't want to say my sophomore year of college. I was already screwing up in college. So, so there's that. So yeah, so there's a lot there that it's like, these kids missed out on so much. I mean, granted, thank God for the internet, and we are at least the generation of the internet. We gave birth to the internet, but that's where I think it started to come into play, where I was like, and then by the time I got into my mid 40s, then I realized I had to buy New Balance sneakers. Yeah, you're all gonna do it, and if you haven't done it, you're gonna, because they're so comfortable, and they come in the wide. So that was like the reasoning behind the channel, was I just felt that there was so much that I could talk about, from my generation. And like I said in my short, everything from music to TV to to movies, even books. I mean, think about it. Like, I mean, my generation gave birth to, I mean, those coming of age authors, Judy Blume. I mean, when you grow up in like a fire and brimstone Roman Catholic Romana, when you grow up in the Romana, when you grow up in like a fire and brimstone Roman Catholic house that I did, it was like, wait, they're not teaching you about sex in school, are they? Because that was another thing, because like my mom was not a boomer, she was one before that, so it's like the silent generation. So you want to talk about the hierarchy of all conservativeness? I mean, we had to shower fully clothed. So yeah, it's like those certain books that circulated, that popped up, like some Judy Blume books, like Forever, and it was like you're reading it like under your covers, and you're like, wow, this is graphic. But then again, as Gen Xers, we didn't call it sex ed in school. I think it was called like human development or something like that. And I will say, my parents, were kind of cool with it. They just, total ostrich with the head in the sand. They just didn't want to talk about it. They were like, so that you're getting that in school? Yeah, mom. Okay, okay. We're gonna get Chinese food tonight. It's like, so yeah. So about me, yeah. So I'm born and raised up. There comes the accent. There comes the accent. Yeah. there are I'm really trying to curb it, people, but I'm born and raised on Long Island. Yeah, Billy Joel's up there, the nylon curtain. So I was born and raised on Long Island for close to my 17 years on this blue and green sphere that we call Earth. Um, I am the son of, I guess you could say, hardworking restaurant owners. My parents owned a pizzeria in Queens, and we lived in the suburbs of Long Island. And I always like to tell people, from a Gen X perspective, if you will, that I kind of have the best of multiple worlds here. And let me explain that. I grew up in kind of a typical suburban neighborhood. We put our garbage. Look, it's garbage. You subscribed. It's garbage. Well, we put our rubbish out by the side of the road. No, we put our garbage out. At the end. I mean, the end of the street. Okay, I'm Gen X. We didn't have milkmen. But you knew your mailman and stuff like that. And it was I mean, I will say, like, from like being like 1985, 10 years old, 86, 11 years old, it was typical. I think I had a typical childhood where it was like, get on my bicycle, had a BMX bike. Uh, I didn't have a mongoose. My next door neighbor, Karthik, he had the mongoose. I had a Kent. I had mongoose from Wish. And we'd cruise around the neighborhood, do create some mischief, you know, play with matches. We did everything that typical, Gen X kids did. Billy Joel said it. Stickball playing as a form of education. We played stickball, we played wiffle ball. We actually made our own game that we called bicycle polo, where we fancied whatever we could on the end of a wiffle ball bat with duct tape, and we took a wiffle ball and kind of like we were on horseback and we were trying to bat this wiffle ball into, actually it was Rob's driveway and Karthik's driveway, and those were the goal lines. And yeah, the playing field was just the size of just a smaller suburban street, and width wise, you didn't really have a lot of room. So I don't grow hair on my knees anymore for that reason. Basically, yeah, I'm just completely scarred. I knew a lot about Bactine, and there'll be a total episode of that. I mean, so stuff like that. I mean, the stuff that you don't hear of anymore. It's like, and I can't even pronounce it, and I'm not even going to yell up the stairs. But what the Maracana, the stuff that came in the glass bottle, and you opened it up, and it had like a wire, and then like a brush on the end of it, and it was like that medication that my grandmother used to, like, oh, you got to cut, come here. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, suburbs of Long Island, pretty typical. Like I said, the whole playing outside thing. If I, watch Gen X esque movies where they depict kids playing outside, it's like, okay, yeah, no, I did that. So then the other thing about me is that I am I'm the baby. So my brother was born 10 years before me, and my sister was born 9 years before me. So there's a huge generation gap. But is there? Because believe it or not, if my brother was born in 65 and my sister was born in 66, by looking at the paperwork here, they're still Gen X. So I admit, growing up with that age gap, by the time I'm 11 years old, one's 20, one's 21. So they're out doing their own thing. So I'm kind of like fending for myself, kind of. You gotta invent things to do. So, but I shared a room with my brother. So I will say the good news about that was there was a heavy musical influence. I mean, I wouldn't be listening to the Doors if it wasn't for my brother John. I wouldn't be listening to Journey if it wasn't for both my brother and my sister. So as much as we didn't get along, I mean, we really didn't get along growing up. Um, Believe it or not, there are a lot of common threads in music, which is a big part of the channel. I mean, music. Hello. So yeah, my mother was born in Harlem. Not very long did they stay there, but she was raised in the Bronx. And my dad, believe it or not, is an Italian immigrant. He came here in the early '60s and from Italy, and kind of made his way. My dad is, one of the, even though he's the silent generation, but you could kind of maybe push him a little towards the boomer, but he has a pretty cool American success story, and I respect that. Of course, I don't know how true it is, but they always say the same. I come to this country with $3 in my pocket. I know $3. It's like, well, didn't you get a room somewhere, or were you really sleeping in the bus depot for that long? But I love the guy, and the only thing about my dad was just like the detachment from American customs. And you can't blame him. I mean, he wasn't born here. Like I said, he came here in his 20s. My mom, on the other hand, I mean, I always think about Back to the Future because my mom, she graduated high school in 1955. The Enchantment Under the Sea Dance. So anytime I watch Back to the Future, I'm like, okay, so all right, that's how it looked like for my mom. That was dudes wearing 3D glasses and milkshakes and cheeseburgers and egg creams. Ah, I got you. Again, there's actually going to be an episode on food, so sit right back and enjoy a tale. So that's kind of my family in a nutshell. There was five of us. Unfortunately, we're only down to three. But hey man, that's life. It sucks, but we move on. But I did say something. I said something earlier. I said, that I kind of have the best of, or kind of a slice of the different aspects of Gen X from a perspective of how we grew up. Excuse me. Like I said, no editing here. And Franks and beans. I didn't have Franks and beans. I had chicken meatballs with Spätzle. But my parents' restaurant, my parents' pizzeria actually was in Queens. So I got to see a lot of that, and we were always going into Manhattan for something, always, because I mean Manhattan was just a stone's throw. You could see the city, you could actually see the city skyline from my house, which was just on the border of Nassau County, as well as where my parents' pizzeria was. So we were always going into Manhattan for something. There was always there was always some kind of certification we needed for the liquor license, Department of Health, whatever it was, attorneys, accountants, whatever. My parents ran a business, so they were always doing some type of business in Manhattan. So I mean, honest to God, I mean, I could literally say that, probably once or twice a week, I was accompanying my mom because I was totally my mother's sidekick into Manhattan. So even though I didn't live in Manhattan, and even though I didn't live in Queens, I definitely was adapt to the city hustle and bustle. I know what a transit bus smells like. And where our pizzeria was in Queens, there was a firehouse right across the street, FDNY, and constantly, would see the fire trucks, going down the turnpike, lights and sirens, NYPD. It wasn't really a high crime area of Queens, even not then, but got to see it all. A very diverse neighborhood, all people of different colors, creeds, and everything else, and everybody really got along, and it was a great time to be alive. Queens, that end of Queens was just like I said, it was so culturally diverse, but man, the unity was there, absolutely. And like going into Manhattan, it was you'd see things, and I'd be like, roll up your window, okay? Roll them up, roll them up. My mom's Monte Carlo had power windows, but if anybody remembers, the roll them up, roll them up. But lastly, on that I did want to kind of touch base on. So my dad and my brother were avid sportsmen. They were really into like hunting and outdoorsy type of stuff, which I didn't get into until like way later on, like probably like with only like the last like maybe 20 years. But they were always if there was an excuse to get to upstate New York, as my dad said, we're going up the state. They were always doing it, and we had some property upstate in the woods, and I mean, you know, 2.5 hours north of Manhattan. You'd be surprised, like just how it changes geographically. I mean, all of a sudden it's like as you're driving through Yonkers and you're looking at the side of like the New York State Thruway, for example. You just literally start to see the mountains build and build and build. And yeah, so that was definitely a culture shock because you would see towns. Well, you wouldn't see any towns. There would be basically you'd be driving and driving and driving, and then you'd see a town, and the town was a Texaco station and a post office, and there was a small trailer park with about 5 units in it, and they had a traffic light, and don't sneeze, because if you sneeze you will miss this town. So I got to see a lot of that, and then like a lot of the just like the wooded areas of the base of the Catskill Mountains, the Adirondacks, a lot of these small towns, small town life. We spent a lot of summers up here and stuff like that. And who knew that right before I turned 17, I would relocate not far from that area. So I said the words culture shock. So yeah, that's the big thing about me. Um, I did leave Long Island when I was 16, going on 17, and I was in the middle of my junior year of high school. So from a Gen X perspective, I got to see like a climactic shift on how the generation actually was different from where I came from to where I went. And it was different. It was really, really different. I mean, we're going to talk about the caste system of the high school. You had your geeks and you had your dweebs and you had your jocks and everything in between and skaters and whatnot. But this was different. This I had all of that, but then all of a sudden there was a group of people. There was a group of guys that would not come to school for like this whole week, in November. And I was like, oh, because they had to go to hunting camp. And there's no G on hunting camp. And that one threw me for a loop because kids growing up in Nassau County and kids growing up in Queens, they don't go to hunting camp. I mean, they go to the Catskills with their parents. A large portion of my old neighborhood growing up. I mean, I came from a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, so a lot of families came up to what was known as the Borscht Belt. So they would vacation up here in like these hotels that were pretty posh back in the day. Dirty Dancing. Here's a classic Gen X movie, 1987, well remembered, with Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze. I know how to say his last name, but I wanted it to rhyme with Grey. And totally based on this couple of kids that were doing hanky panky in the Catskill Mountains, and touches base on what the Borscht Belt was like back then. So I knew what that was like, because most of my friends, their parents, grandparents, they all came up to this area. So I would mention a town to like some of my friends back on Long Island when I was living on Long Island, and they would be like, "Oh yeah, we know that because we go to," and then enter said hotel name there, like the Concord, the Raleigh, the Nevele, something like that. So I definitely will say, I had those snippets. Like I had suburban life, I had city life, I had country living, but then I was kind of a little bit kind of force fed country living. Like, moving up here, it was, oh dear, I have to adapt. And that's when things I think really started to take shape for me as a Gen Xer, because that's where I found, should I play a song? That's when like the grunge of the Pacific Northwest, started to blow in to the Atlantic Northeast. And suddenly a lot of those songs really started to speak to me. So I was a metalhead. I mean, honest to God, like my roots, my gateway band into like, I think you can almost see a snip of it over there. That's Def Leppard Pyromania, but Metallica Master of Puppets behind me. But Def Leppard was definitely my gateway band, like 1983. My godmother Loretta, she actually, I'm probably gonna have her on for an episode. She was the one that got me to listen to Def Leppard in 1983 when I was going to be a ring bearer in her wedding. That's way too long ago. And I always dug hard rock and heavy metal, but come on, I mean, I'm a Gen Xer. I mean, I also, I mean, if you didn't have Thriller, get off the channel. Well, no, you could stay, but I had Thriller. It was like one of my first cassettes. Michael Jackson was just a staple. He was just, a staple of American radio, American Gen X radio. So, from a music perspective, yeah, I was kind of well rounded, but like I said, my roots were definitely in like hard rock and heavy metal. And when I came up here, yeah, I admit, man, it's like all my family lives on Long Island. My nuclear family, we came up here. My sister was actually already married, so she didn't come up here. So it was just me, my dad, my mom, and my brother. So it was just the four of us. We made it. And the relocation was just it was hard on most of us, but it was really hard on like me and my mom, because all my family was back on Long Island, all my friends were back on Long Island. I mean, come on. I mean, let's face it. It's like, you're in the middle of your junior year of high school. Oh, Lordy. Yeah, that's definitely I mean, just a jolt to the senses. But thank God for the music, man, because that's, the premise of our generation. I mean, we think in music, we are music, and it was there for me. So I remember, coming up here and hearing Nirvana like almost for the first time, like right before I moved up here, and I was like, who are these guys? The funny thing was nobody even knew how to classify them. It was like, I don't know. And I remember Alice in Chains coming out of what they call the big four of grunge: Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains. Even though there's plenty more grunge bands that we could talk about, from Mudhoney to the Gits to the U-Men, even Stone Temple Pilots, kind of, Slithers. I did a Velvet. That was a total pun. Velvet Revolver, Slither, okay, and Scott Weiland slithers into that. But the music was definitely there. So all of that grunge spoke to me. Like I was saying, Alice in Chains. Oh yeah, backtrack, rewind. I did the 8 millimeter reel to reel, and Alice in Chains was a great band that I really got into. And I remember not knowing what they were called. Nobody knew what they were called. Like nobody knew how to classify them. It's like they're showing up on Headbangers Ball, but they're showing up in like regular rotation. And I remember I had a friend that called them, and I quote, sludge rock. Sludge? And I was like, all right. But it was definitely a jolt to the nervous system, because only a couple of years before that, you're listening to bands and you're seeing bands like Poison and Motley Crue, and the spandex and the leather and the hair and the earrings and the hair, and that's why our ozone was depleting. And then all of a sudden, it was almost like overnight. Who are you guys? So here again, a big, big thing we're going to talk about on the channel. Definitely going to divulge into the music. But I really want to thank everybody for checking it out. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them right down below in the comments. You can email me. I'm finally going to get to say this. You can actually email me at the Gen X Locker, all one word, all lowercase, at outlook.com. Again, that's the Gen X Locker at outlook.com. For those of you that don't know me, another piece of my calling card. I started as a radio DJ, so every once in a while, the Metro weather forecast voice is going to come out. We're looking at cloudy skies with a high of only about 52, and you might want to break out the galoshes and the umbrella because rain could be coming on in on the overnight. All right, keep it here for the best. So yeah. And before I even wrap up, another big, 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 big thing about me. My first radio intern gig, I got to cover Woodstock 94 on a press pass, which was like, super completely awesome. And I'll never forget it. And that's literally going to be a whole episode. But again, I really, really, really want to thank you guys. Couldn't do it without you. And shout outs to the people that I really couldn't do this without. God damn it, I almost got misty. Fuck. My one of my best friends for over the last 30 years, Eddie Romeo, just great dude. He has a channel called The Realms of Metal, and you can check him out on YouTube. And as soon as I figure out, I could link his channel. I think I know how to do that. My cousins, Jerry and Dominic, check out my cousin Jerry. He does Derry X Dines on YouTube, and he is just the boy is a foodie. And I mean, and you know what? He don't give a shit. If he don't like it, he's gonna let you know. So big shout out to them. I really want to thank them for a lot of technical support. My buddy Scow for just being in my corner 100%. my buddy Pete for being in my corner 100%. With Pete's the worst here because Pete's the IT friend, and what does Adobe stand for? So yeah, so if I forgot anybody, of course, my wife, who has literally been in my corner since day one. Yeah, I love all of you guys right here. So again, like and subscribe. I am totally grateful, and I am so glad I'm finally launching it. And we got some great episodes coming up soon. We're going to be talking about Action Park. We're going to be talking about Latchkey Kids. We're going to talk about Saturday morning cartoons. We're going to be talking about music, music, music. And I think when I'm done with that, I'm going to talk about some music. So thanks, and stay tuned for some more fun.